focused on, and this could change as we continue to move on. This could be slightly modified, which is the most likely situation. Or if the data dictates that we move in a rather large shift, then we may end up having to do that. Ultimately, we have to move with what says, what the data says is best. That's just is what it is. But this does look like the best way to move forward at the time being. I have spoken with a number of different naval architects and marine architects, and a ton of different other specialists like cold water, coastal climate protection specialists, etc. This seems good. We could decrease the land-based port construction and operations ecological impact by moving a lot of the activity to close-to-shore automated traffic instead, right? And sometimes that will increase time overall, yes. Other times, it will be about the same, and in terms of congestion, it'll actually highly increase the overall supply chain efficiency, because when the ships are coming in, if they're able to transship their cargo onto vessels that then can wait their turn in an automated system to be able to move to the port, which then does not have to spend as much time with the cranes going up and down, saving a significant amount of time there per each crate or whatever, and then that adds up, of course, very quickly. So by the time that it gets there, that's all good, and we don't have to have as heavy construction happening on the land for all of this to happen in the first place. And we can have it be mobile, which in terms of climate resiliency, nice. If coastal sea shelf loss happens, which King Point is particularly well suited for because it doesn't look like it's at risk for that at all, which is rare on the Arctic coast, mind you. But it's a good thing to implement all the same. A, just be safe. B, because we can show that it can work. Shanghai and many other ports are already implementing this in a huge manner. They have been for quite some time. Canada's been a little lacking. We've done some great things, but beside that, anyways, yeah. So maintain mobility, etc. All major project structures undergo innovative structural and methodological upgrades. This runs from the rail to the highways to the port, and the ships coming to the port. Some are heavy in substance, some are heavy in show. So every single area, we're not going to get into them all, but the same way that we're approaching the transshipping part at the actual port differently and adding another layer for all sorts of different reasons. We're looking at doing different approaches to all of these areas as well. We won't necessarily be able to be successful in every single one of those areas. We might have to do the standard way of doing things if that seems to still be best. But we're not just going to follow into what the rest of the kind of port scene internationally has done, because there's some incredible work that's going on there. But we need to shake things up. Canada's in a good spot to do that, and the Arctic is special enough in the region that it deserves and demands that happens. That just is what it is. And some in substance, that's important, of course. Some in show, that's important because culturally, Canada and indeed Arctic nations, or perhaps even the whole world, it's important that we really show that we care about this in a really flashy way, at least in some extent. Yeah, so we must move now, really quickly. Canada, unfortunately, historical bad job is what it is. King Point, very, very valuable. Someone's going to move on it. It will be developed. Determining who gets there first will have staggering effects on future Arctic development. Our non-profit corporation status, as well as our policies to hand over completed projects to a collection of federal, regional, and local authorities, leave us legally exposed the moment we step out of the collective interest of all parties involved. There's no better way to approach a project of this much significance for future generations. I do believe that. I have no issues with capitalism. Capitalism is tight. I love it. It's awesome. It's given us so many good things. And for future ports, I hope to see that we can see some really good stuff happening in that kind of direction and stuff. But a non-profit coming in and being very exposed in a way to make sure that this very, very sensitive area is developed properly the first time. And we, as a non-profit, we can only legally pay our staff what is the industry average, and etc. So it decreases issues with corruption and all this other stuff, etc. It does seem like the best way to go about approaching this. The federal government, probably not the best way of approaching it, as we can see historically. Corporations, same thing. This seems good. The Inuit people have done, and sorry, I shouldn't generalize, but Arctic Indigenous and Inuit, of course, people have done really, really amazing stuff in Northwest Territories and Nunavut, across the Arctic. I'd love to work with them as well. But yeah, beside the point for now. Development teams, we have, I say approximately 50 researchers. Realistically, it's somewhere like 50 to 100, and not just researchers, but also specialists. But yeah, approximately 50 researchers willing to work in volunteer and paid roles immediately. We have a really, really efficient system. I'm really, really proud of it, honestly. We can hire top-tier specialists within 1 to 2 days' notice and deploy research and development teams rapidly, within like 1 week. And I mean like high-quality people. It's, I feel so blessed. But current volunteer team, way more people than this, but quite specific to the port. These things are important, of course. Naval architecture, supply chain management, et cetera, national security, so on. Global perspective, we have consultants in just about every field and every time zone. That is important too going south as well, because we are going to have to make sure that we're improving our north-south supply chains as Arctic shipping increases, because there's already a north-south economic disparity to some extent. We don't want to see that increase over time. But beside the point for now. Yeah, how you're funding Builds Canada and Saves the World. Transport Canada will likely fund up to 250 million. I say likely, not because they've said that they're likely going to do that. They haven't given any indication that they're likely going to do it, but we have a lot of other reasons why we expect so. Yeah, I'll kind of leave it at that for the time being. That this port needs to be developed, and yeah, we'll leave it at that. But we need to cover the remaining 250 million project costs, and there's already different groups that we spoke with, whether that's some people in the Yukon government or the Peace River Regional District, many other districts as well, who've all been interested because they're geographically well situated to benefit immensely from this port being developed. So yeah, they're all fired up and ready to go, and a lot of them are down to pay for it too. So that's all good. Covering our operational costs though, both as a non-profit and also any costs that Transport Canada and other places might not cover, whether that's like marketing stuff or like HR or like whatever else have you, like general equipment that we need, office supplies, all this other stuff. It adds up really, really, really quickly, and we've been able to accomplish so much with nothing basically. Like just going in, like we've done, I don't know how many volunteer hours. It's like there's been so many people working. It's an insane number, and I know that ends up adding up to a really, really, really huge value because per hour work, et cetera, et cetera. But overall, though, with basically no money going in, we've been able to become the most influential student club in Canada and whatever else, blah blah blah. Maybe perhaps the most influential, given the weight of the Arctic, perhaps most influential in North America at the time being. Turned that into a nonprofit, et cetera, whatever else. And now we've got this other crazy stuff around. So with money, I expect that we can go from being the most influential, blah blah blah, to the most impactful nonprofit in Canadian history. And I mean that, not only because of the project that we're working on right now, but because of other projects we have upcoming in the future as well. So, for those of you who would be interested in funding at the port level, I will have more information that's attached to this as well. That the port will be significantly more money that we're looking at. We have some other people that we're talking with as well. Yeah, the numbers will be there, you'll see it. We're talking about operational costs. All sorts of levels of funding are greatly, greatly appreciated. You can think of us, funding us is much like funding a hyper-productive think tank that produces national mega projects. By helping fund our operational costs, you drive Canada's future forward, your brand will be associated with ours, and in this climate war, you will be remembered as a hero. A better tomorrow for Canada is a better tomorrow for all of us. Solving climate crises is how we do that, and funding us is the next step. Let's do it together, join the effort, be a hero, and invest in Canada's future today. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Feel free to message me with any questions. We'll have my contact information with this as well too. Yeah, I'm really excited for all this. There's been a huge amount of work put in by so many incredible people, and I'm so grateful we're here today. Thank you so much again, and yeah, cheers.